Hello and welcome to another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am here with two absolutely incredibly talented musicians with a new album coming out. My dear friend of many years, Juli, Gort, and my new friend, John Finn. How are you guys?
Yay!
Hi, Scott. How you doing?
We're good. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Juli, it's been, about 3 years, I think, since you were on the show last time?
I think so. Gosh, it hasn't been that long.
It really has. It has. But I'm really glad to have you back on and in video format this time. I've upped my game a bit over the years. So I want to ask you guys, first of all, you've got a new album coming out, your fifth album, and you chose to do an album of Bonnie Raitt covers. I find this really interesting because you're both such talented writers. And I always get a little bit nervous when I think about writers that are so talented doing a cover album, because I just want to hear you write stuff. And then I'll eventually hear the album and go, I'm so glad they did this. What made you want to depart from writing and just do a cover project?
Well, I've always been inspired by Bonnie. I just feel like she has this spirit that's unstoppable. And I just needed that, just a little kiss from her, I guess, where I had been listening to her music a lot and I'd seen interviews with her. I was just really inspired. And then in one instance, John and I had learned a couple of her tunes to play at a duo gig. And we do them in such a different way that it was, I thought, maybe we should take a few of her songs and do them our own way. And so then we kind of were jokingly called the project Bonnie Our Way.
Right.
Yep.
That's right.
And so I planned on putting out this record where I was like, it's going to be super quick, 5 tunes, we're fine. And then I was taking a class last semester, and it was all about finding our resonant frequency and our sound and putting it out there. And then we had to choose an artist and write a song for them, as if we were writing it literally for them. So I wrote this song called Dig Deep, and I was like, this song is actually really cool. What if we put it on our album of covers? It was so weird that I had thought of the album of covers and then wrote a song for her. So it was just perfect timing. And I don't know. Do you have anything you want to say about it?
Well, one of the things, so the idea for this album kind of happened during the pandemic. And, I'm always writing and practicing and creating, and so is Juli. More recently, one of the things that's been a challenge for me has been to write something and then get it all the way to the finish line. So, I've got like hundreds of half-written songs, which I like, and I've been sort of intending on finishing. And Julie and I have been having an awful lot of conversations about like what's the best way to be what's the best way to be effective. And we've been getting into a lot of conversations about, let go of perfectionism, right? Because that, perfectionism can be a creativity killer, I think. It's like you want your music to be good, but if you only allow yourself to be perfect, then you won't finish anything, which is kind of what I've been. So, personally, I've been looking for ways to just kind of break through that. So, like several months ago, Juli had this idea of putting out an album of what she called practice affirmations, which is it's like a it's like a track of her talking sort of affirmations about directed at a musician struggling with practicing. Because any musician knows that when you start to practice, the mind monsters start to show up and tell you how terrible you are while you're practicing, and it's really easy to get discouraged, and you got to kind of find ways to fight through that. So she kind of put together a bunch of those, and then we started putting together these I guess soundscapes that would sort of fit with each of the affirmations that she had written. So we put them all together. I think, how many did we do?
10.
There was 10. Okay. So within a month we had an album's worth of material. We put the album out, finished it, mastered it, released it, and then we realized at the end of it, it's like we just put out an album. Okay, so that's one of the things we need to work on, is to just put the album out. Like, just write the songs, produce the songs, put the album together, get it out. So our next step was to do the Bonnie Raitt project. Just because, we're
so inspired by her.
Yeah, exactly. It was really inspired by what she did. Plus, it was, kind of our way of developing more momentum, really. And it's sort of a natural tendency of both of ours to kind of like, play the music, but find ways to reinterpret it too. Not so that it's just different for the sake of being different, but
we know that we can't do what Bonnie does.
Yeah.
We have to honor her and take the inspiration, but then also honor ourselves and do it our way. We didn't mess it up in any way.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. Yeah,
I think you'll find it sounds different than what...
You won't mistake any of it for, it's like, boy, that sounds just like Bonnie, because it doesn't. But we tried to honor what she did, but kind of present it our own way too.
Yeah.
Well, even if you were to play everything note for note, you can never recapture what an artist does in their own way. Just the way they feel it and project it is always going to be unique to them, just like the way that you do it is always going to be unique to you.
Yes. And, that's for my money, one of the things I think about sometimes is if I do something note for note, what's more interesting about me doing the same thing that somebody else did? Like if you had a choice between, listening to me play a Bonnie Raitt guitar lick versus Bonnie Raitt playing a Bonnie Raitt guitar lick, I want to listen to Bonnie. I don't want to listen to me do that because Bonnie already did it, So, both Julie and I are just thinking a lot about, well, what can we bring to the table that will make this, to sort of revitalize this material in a different way.
Right. And I think there is a certain fine line too, sometimes, to paying respect to what an artist did while still making it your own. Sometimes that can be a hard line to cross. Were there any points during the writing where you felt this is too off, we need to change this? Or was it a pretty natural development?
Well, a couple of the tunes John and I had already been playing. Mm-hmm. So we kind of did them in our own way, just as a duo. And then when we brought in Larry and Joe and Rich, the songs just naturally took shape. Mm-hmm. So when I arrange a song, I have an idea. I would like the verse here, the intro there. But when I specifically invite Larry Finn to come in, I want Larry Finn to be Larry Finn. So I'm not going to tell him, play this beat, Right. I'm just going to say, you do Larry, because I trust you. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's a lot of times why you pick particular musicians. One, availability is obviously always an issue, or budget or whatever, but you pick people who I think your style would work on this project. I think you can give what I want on this.
Exactly.
To just do what you do and give me you on this.
That's what I was trying to go for,
Yeah.
And we had never played the tunes with Larry, Joe, and Rich.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow. Yeah, so we did two sessions and we recorded live. So we got 2 songs the first time.
Yeah, and then 3 the second time.
And then the last song is a song that I just I had it on my heart to record it, but we didn't get time to do it with the full band. So I just did me and a guitar, and then John added us some guitar solo stuff over it.
Yeah.
And then I said, we should ask Joe to put the bass track on. So that's the one that sounds completely different.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things that's sort of worth mentioning is that, for 4 out of the 5 tunes, is it 5 tunes or 6 tunes?
6 tunes
6 tunes.
Altogether, yeah.
Okay, so 5 out of the 6 tunes, there are no overdubs. Everybody's playing all at the same time. And then the 6th one was one that we put together after the fact. So that was kind of important for us because we really wanted to sort of capture that vibe of a bunch of people playing in a room, right? Because so many music albums these days are kind of piecemeal together. where you can, either somebody sits at a computer and creates beats and then overdubs and that's great. It
It's an
gets you a
awesome way
certain
to get music written.
There's a certain thing that you get, and what we were interested in is just the whole notion of, okay, everybody pile into a room and go, ready, go, and then we all climb in the canoe and just try to row in
in the same direction. Like Daryl's house. You ever watch Daryl's house?
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so Daryl Hall from John Oates had a YouTube channel for many years called Daryl's House, and what he would do is just bring other well-known artists in and rehearse with his band, and the episode would be you see little bits of clips of them rehearsing, and then the end of it would be playing the songs that they worked on.
Oh, interesting. And it's funny that you bring that up, as the day that we're recording this. I believe yesterday was John Oates' birthday. So belated happy birthday to John Oates.
Happy birthday, John Oates.
Nice.
There's definitely a magic, though, to recording that way, because you're getting people who aren't overthinking it. You start doing 2 or 3 takes, and then you're like, what was it I did on that one take I really wanted to do? And you start getting lost. And the more takes you do, the harder it gets to really focus on the song and give a good performance. So you really have to nail it in the first 3, I would say. But I like that you just sat down and recorded it, and that was that.
Well, sometimes we did do 3 or 4 takes.
Yeah.
Before we got the one we loved.
Yeah.
But we hadn't practiced it before, and it's so fun playing with these guys.
Yeah, these are some of the best musicians that we know. So, they make everything seem amazing and easy. So.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah, I know a few people that, you just watch them play the most ridiculous thing, and they just have this expression like they're thinking about what kind of sandwich they're going to make after.
Right.
And it's because it's just so natural to them to play at that level, whereas most people are just going, I quit.
Right. Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear this. Now, this episode comes out on release day, so congratulations to you guys.
Oh, thank you. Wow, how exciting.
And of course, we've got the link in the show notes for you guys to go and check it out. Are you going to do any video or anything to support it? I know that when you're doing covers, that really runs into some, licensing potential issues, but it sounds like that is something.
The cool thing about YouTube is so many songs offer shared revenue. So you'll know instantly. So you upload the tune, YouTube checks it, and it says, okay, yeah, this song is owned by someone else. We're going to share the revenue with you. And sometimes they want the whole portion, but that's fine. You don't really have to go through Harry Fox anymore and get the rights. But as far as, yeah. What?
No, nothing. I just putting my hand down.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, see, that's what I get for trying to do things the right way. I did a cover of Lionel Richie's Hello. It was for Halloween. So it was not quite the warm and loving song that he had done. And he was smart because he's kept a certain percentage of the rights. He has final say. So even though he's got 2 publishers that, say yay or nay, even if they both agree, they have to send the song to Lionel. And so they sent my song to him, and he's like, nope.
Oh, wow. You got refused by Lionel.
But had I done exactly that and just put it on YouTube, there's a good chance. Well, this was before a lot of the revenue sharing was happening, so it probably would have gotten an infringement notice. But yeah, I mean, if I put it up now, I could probably do that. But
does it have his track?
No.
It might not even recognize it.
Other than the lyrics, it doesn't even resemble the original song. I mean,
I love what you do. I love what you do to the haunted Christmas things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was right along that whole thing. And I had a video idea to support it, and I was really disappointed. I understand where he's coming from, and I even said in my letter that I really hope he didn't find it offensive. It was a matter of this is just a different take. Yeah. And I mean, it has always been listed on one of the top stalker songs, depending on the lyrics, but no, that's cool. I'm glad that you guys can get it out there. I'm looking forward to seeing, what you do with it on that side of things too. Because everything that I've seen you guys do, and this is part of what I love about you, is that it's all quality. I've never seen you put anything up that I've been like, kind of surprised they released that or anything. I mean, it's all been 100% professional, clean, well done. And I think you guys have a reputation just because of that alone let alone
Well,
the
thank
enjoyment
you.
of what you're putting out. I mean, those are really two separate things. So
There's
thank you.
definitely a learning curve with it. I should mention though, we do have footage of all the songs. So far we've got full videos of 2. And our first one debuts tomorrow at 3:00. It's
Very nice.
the Dig Deep track that I wrote. So the video will premiere at 3 p.m. tomorrow
What day?
Eastern. Tomorrow is
Yeah.
April 9th.
Right. Okay.
And then
tomorrow as we're recording. Okay, so this will already, because this comes out on the 12th.
people can go to YouTube and they'll be able to find it. It'll be
Perfect.
there already.
I'll just put I'll put that link in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I
so-
can't wait to see that. I gotta wait.
Yeah, see, that was one of the things too, which was partly why we like all the tracks are live, is because we took video footage of every tune that we did, and every take of every thing that we did.
Yeah. We wanted to document it.
I like the idea of not having overdubs, though. I like the idea of, even if it's not 100% on the click, or somebody played a note maybe a little later or earlier than they wanted to. I like music that's human. I get so tired of this. Well, we have to move this snare right on the beat, and this has to change, and we've got
It's got to be on the grid. Yeah.
I like when it sounds human. If you go back and listen to the music of the 70s, even some of the most popular songs, Led Zeppelin, King Crimson, whoever it is, they are not 100% perfect all the time.
Right.
It's human beings playing.
That's what we like about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we were to go back and correct Led Zeppelin and have everything be on the grid, we might go, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I was watching. It's funny that you say that. I was watching a video of somebody that had taken the vocal tracks from a Journey tune. I forget which one it was. It might have been Open Arms. But they ran it through auto tune and pitch correction. And
Steve Perry?
Yeah.
Oh, he's always perfect, I thought.
And yeah, well, he is. And that was the thing. It's like what they did was they actually showed like exactly how on he was. Mm-hmm. And then they ran pitch correction, and then they sort of replayed it, and it was interesting because it wasn't anywhere near as good.
Really?
There was something wrong.
So
interesting.
But I have to think that what he was doing fit the music. So I think he would have to run the music through that same process and see if he was actually following the music as well. Because if you just isolate the vocal and say it's not in key or this is right or wrong, that would be one thing. But I think you'd kind of have to follow that with the music and see if he was matching what was being played.
Maybe. Well, okay. So I had kind of a different thought about it, which was, for the last album that I did, I there was one solo that I was working on. Now that album, some of the rhythm section was all recorded at the same time, and then I did nothing but overdubs for all the guitar parts.
Which was that for
Bull in the China Shop? Yeah. So there was one solo that when I was putting it together, I did literally hundreds of takes on it, and at one point I just kind of got to a point where what I started doing was just throwing a bunch of stuff on there, and then just later on, I eventually stitched together from a bunch of different tracks, like a composited ideal take, and then I made that the mix, and I sent it to a friend of mine, and he listened to it, and his response back to me was, "Yeah, it's okay." But I really liked the solo, but I knew that there was something missing. So what I did was I went back and I learned how to play the solo that I had composited together, and practice it and practice and practice. And then I went back and then performed that solo end to end without any cut-ins.
Okay.
And then it had the feeling.
And then when I listen to that back, it's like 1,000 times better. So I think that there's something. I wish I could tell you exactly what it is, but when you start cutting and pasting and editing and correcting too much, it starts to make it sound just less human.
Yeah.
It sounds like sheet music at that point. So, you think about, what Mr. Holland said, right? You can play the notes on the page or you can play the sunset. You're playing the same piece of music either way.
Yes.
There's a huge difference in the feeling. And I think that's it. You could piece together all the right notes. You can add your pitch bends or whatever you want to it. But if it doesn't feel like it's in motion, if it doesn't feel cohesive and connected, it's just a bunch of cool ideas, really,
Right.
at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's something that kind of comes into play. You know.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're basically capturing a live performance and putting it on a record, as opposed to recording something in a studio and releasing it as an album.
Yes.
There's really a difference between the two. And I tend to find the stuff that's played live, I guess I just feel more. I feel more heart in it. You know, so I'm glad you guys did it that way.
Yeah.
But you're so comfortable playing live. I mean, you guys play a lot. You're always doing, videos on YouTube, whether you're doing live performances or you're doing like, practice videos or helping.
I know, the practice video.
I love that. I was saying before we started recording, I was watching your 10-minute practice in A earlier today. And I was blown away by just how flawless it is. I mean, I always loved you as a guitar player, and even when we were in high school, and just to see how proficient and comfortable and relaxed you are as a player, but you're also at the same time practicing, but you're also giving people something to work with too. You're giving them an opportunity to go through an exercise, to stick to it, to find a way to focus and not lose their concentration. It's so many things all in one little 10-minute video. I just love that you do those.
Thank you. I had the brainstorm last year. I just really wanted to get my students practicing, and some people do it consistently. Some people say, oh, I didn't get a chance this week. People are busy, so I totally get it. But I thought maybe I'll just try to make it a little easier for them. So I'll do these videos. And then I thought I really should have all the keys, because then anyone at any time will be able to practice whatever key. So I had the ambition to do that, but I only got to the key of B flat. So then I had school starting and all this stuff. And then I just had some free time last week. I'm like, I'm going to bring that back again, because it really was a goal to have all 12 keys. And then I don't know if people are watching. Maybe I'll see 17 views or whatever. It never gets very high. But someone posted the other day, I probably should actually look what the actual quote was, but it was something like, I'm so happy you do these videos. I don't play guitar at all, but I really like watching them. And I thought,
probably some
not only is it a practice, it's entertainment. I don't know.
Well, there's probably some sort of ASMR quality to it too, for those people that just want a certain, because where could you find something that you can listen to of someone practicing a scale for 10 minutes, all just up and down the fretboard? I mean,
right.
It does have a rhythmic thing to it, and a melodic
It's
component.
hypnotic. But I suppose that's part of the problem for people who practice it, is you just kind of get lost in it and you're not realizing what your fingers are even doing anymore, because you're just like, your mind either just gets into it or starts getting distant from it. What's the secret to just staying focused on that for 10 minutes and without just kind of mentally checking out?
Well, I've gotten better at it, but it kind of depends on the day. It's like meditating. They say it's like having a puppy, and you always want to make sure you keep the puppy in the center of the room. He's going to wander off, and you just have to redirect him back to the center. But to me, it's developing an awareness. Like in this most recent week, before I would just play the scales for 10 minutes and I would not release it unless I played it perfectly. And then I got to the point where I was like, well, I think I can show them that I made a mistake. So then I put a little oops. But this time I realized when I was playing the triad arpeggio one that in some places when I played the fifth string, the A string, and then when I'd release it, it would ring a little bit. So I thought, I'm going to just focus on that. Like, maybe I can correct the problem, and maybe they'd be able to see the progression, that it would get better. And sometimes it did. And then when I'm really focusing on it, I would make a mistake. And then I thought, well, that's kind of an important thing for them to see too. You don't have to play it perfectly. That's really not the whole idea, but it's to listen in a different way. It's to learn how to focus and pay attention and be aware and be in it. But sometimes if you just go through the motions, you're honoring the practice anyway. So there's no wrong way, there's no right way. It's having an awareness and developing that.
I like that. Plus, I think there's also kind of an intimidation factor, especially for people that are starting out that think they have to be perfect for 10 minutes and they have to just do it over and over until they're perfect for 10 minutes. We showing the support, like, you know what, it's okay if you make a mistake. Just keep the clock going, get back on it, and just do the best you can for 10 minutes versus here's perfection. I think that's a lot better for people to just say, you know what, if she can make a mistake, I can make a mistake once in a while too. And I'm just
the whole music is mistakes. I think about it like when I was young, I read about Steve Vai practicing for 10 hours a day, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever do that. But it intimidated me so badly. And then I would feel horrible that I couldn't practice 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And then during the pandemic, I had this horrible anxiety, and that's really what caused me to make this Wellspring album, because I needed a remedy for my own horrible things that I was thinking while I was practicing. I would literally be in tears because I was going through so much trauma. Like, I can't even practice for 30 minutes without feeling so stressed out because I hated how I was playing. I hated how it sounded. So I really had to heal that. And then I looked around to see if anybody had done this, and nobody had. So I thought, if it can help me, I'm going to just make my own, because I really needed an out. So I made it, and I was like, oh man, this is a great way to start out, because there doesn't have to be perfection in that practice. In fact, every day I'm going to come in with something new that I want to learn. Like, how can I start something new and be perfect at it? So then I started to let it go a little bit. And then I showed it to another person. They were like, oh my gosh, this totally helped me too.
Right.
So there shouldn't be this stigma about just practicing. It's playing. It's like preparing for the performance. Of course there's mistakes.
But there is that stigma. And I'm glad that you're kind of helping get rid of that, because I think that will turn more people on to taking a chance and doing it and seeing if they enjoy it. If you just say, I want to start learning guitar, and the mountain is just so big to climb, you're going to go, all right, I'll go hit a drum.
I'll go hit a drum.
Right.
Or I'll just keep on my TikTok and scroll.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, the time waster that is. So I wanted to ask you guys, you also do, is the correct pronunciation ukulele?
There's two pronunciations. The Hawaiian pronunciation is ukulele.
Okay.
So I try to honor that, but it's so often called ukulele as well.
I'm headed to the NAMM show in a couple months. You guys have been to the NAMM shows before. You know that the downstairs section, if you've been to the one in California, is almost 40% just that instrument alone. In every
really?
color.
Oh, it's definitely got a resurgence.
Then there's a whole wall of them on the main floor. When you guys are playing that instrument as opposed to guitar, do you see music or feel music differently than you do when you're playing guitar?
I think for me, it was, it's been a blessing. I'll have to say that. So I first started, I had gotten a gig in a musical, and as they were explaining what it was, they said, oh, and can you play ukulele too? Because there's a part. And I said, oh, of course, because it's just a little guitar. I play the guitar already. And so then that started it. I just had to learn this funny little instrument, and it was beautiful. And I take guitar so seriously. I've got this degree in guitar. I've played it my whole life. And like I was telling you a little bit earlier, that I've always played such serious music. But then when I pick up that instrument, it's got a lightness to it, and I teach seniors and little kids. It doesn't feel like the pressure of being this guitar player. So for some reason, I just feel free with it. Like, oh, whatever, I'm going to play the Eye of the Tiger, So it feels different. I feel like I approach the tunes a little bit differently. Like, oh, whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah, that's probably true. And for me, I actually learned ukulele before I learned guitar.
Oh, okay.
Or I shouldn't say I learned. It was kind of more like my dad had an ukulele when I was growing up, and he had a repertoire of like maybe 3 or 4 songs that he could do, and And when I was about 5, I started kind of messing with those, trying to imitate what he was doing. And right around then, I started, figuring out I could strum a couple of chords. And I mean, I was probably terrible, but at the time I thought I was amazing. I guess you always think you're amazing when you're 5, and you are.
You are, for sure.
But that was actually my first experience playing a fretted instrument. I started playing guitar when I was 6. So for me, guitar just kind of felt like the next evolution of what I was doing with ukulele.
That makes sense. Yeah, and adding a couple more strings to the mix of things.
Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The other thing too is it's hard to hard to be sad when you're playing a ukulele.
It's true.
That's a very, very good.
You have to go through the tulips, right?
Whereas on the guitar, you can play some really emotional, kind of stuff that can really just make your heart just twist into different shapes.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different range. Yeah. Do you want me to go get
I have to go get a thing of water. I have a tickle. I got allergies this week.
Oh no!
Oh.
Can we go get them?
So sorry.
Oh no, not at all. Well, it is that that windy season. Pollen's blowing around and all that.
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question is I noticed that, mainly I'm a drummer, but I play a keyboard and I write most of the stuff I do on a keyboard. But if I'm writing on paper, or if I'm writing with my bass guitar, or if I'm writing with drums, depending on which way I'm going, I really tend to look at music from a different angle, and I approach songwriting differently. Do you find that it's different for you as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and my processes are similar in the sense that if I'm in the writing process, if I have any one rule, it's that I try not to apply rules to my writing. Which basically means try anything and everything without judgment, but keep showing up.
I like that.
And then eventually what's happened to me in the past is that some piece will come along that will just start to take some kind of a shape somehow. And very often that's the point where we'll give it like its first version of a working title. And the title is just for me to something so I can have a way to associate it. And then if I'm writing instrumentals, then I'm just writing the instrumentals to try to get closer to what that title is suggesting. And then either the title will evolve or the music will evolve. So at the end of the road, the title of the song and the direction that the music goes it will start to meet. I wrote a song many years ago called "If Stevie Ray Vaughan Went to Berkeley and Studied Jazz." So
I love it.
Okay, so if you can imagine what that might sound like, the song sounds pretty much like that. And now the song happened because a bunch of my friends were doing Stevie Ray Vaughan tributes, and I wanted to do one because I love Stevie Ray Vaughan and just really wanted to kind of tap into that. But then what happened was everything I wrote that was sort of Stevie Ray Vaughan-ish to me sounded like Stevie Ray Vaughan, just not done as well, right? Or just not done with the same. It sounds like Stevie, but it's not Stevie. So it kind of made me think, okay, what's the value in that? So what I started thinking about was, okay, well, what can I add to this conversation that might make it slightly more, more uniquely me? And it's like, okay, well, all right, I've been working at this college that teaches jazz. So what would it sound like if Stevie Ray Vaughan showed up to Berkeley and started and was studying jazz? What would he play like? And when I started trying to imagine what that might sound like, that changed everything about how I approached it.
Sure.
So
I like that
too.
So let me ask you this: when you're writing, and I struggle with this a lot, when is a song finished? When is it at that point where you're like, okay, the writing is complete and I'm not going to do anything to it?
Never.
Oh my gosh.
I tend to subscribe to the, I think it was Walt Whitman that said, you never finish a song, you simply let go of it.
It escapes.
Or the song escapes or something like that. I know for me, with the material that I've recorded and then subsequently released, when the band plays the material live, by now the versions we play now aren't like what's on the record.
Sure. Yeah, that does change and evolve.
So, I tend to, I guess the way that I tend to look at it is, I guess there is a point when the song starts to feel like it's accomplishing the mission that it was meant to accomplish. Mm-hmm. You see, I mean, I could still practice the Stevie Ray Vaughan song and come up with 100 more variations, but I considered it done when it more or less accomplished what the title suggests.
Right. Well, that's the beauty of getting to play it live, right? Is that you can take it in all those different directions. You can do something different with it every night.
Yeah.
But when you're recording, at some point, you've got to just stop and record it. For me, I find when I'm trying to add more to the song and I find that it's actually taking away from the song instead of adding to it, that's when it's time to look at, okay, have I really done what I wanted to do with the song? Because I'll sit here and do 60 tracks and add another 50 or 60 and go, I'm really ridiculous and I need to stop.
It's time to stop. There are other songs calling us.
Yeah,
one of the first 20 tracks, you can't even hear them anymore.
Yeah, that's true too.
One of the processes that I do go through sometimes, or most of the time, and this is the hardest part of it, is to listen to the song and take away everything that the song doesn't absolutely need. That's hard. Because you fall in love with certain sections of the tune, but then when you realize that the tune, like having that section of the tune, if you like it, but it doesn't really add to the meaning of the song in any measurable way, you have to ask yourself whether that section really has enough value to stay in there.
I've thought about working with an outside producer just to make sure that I have the right perspective sometimes, because I think there are those parts where you just like them so much. And even though they don't fit, you like them, so they stay in. I don't know that I always make the right decision. I make the right decision for me.
Right.
But does that necessarily translate to somebody who might enjoy the song if I wasn't insane?
But here's the deal. What I learned last semester is we have to write for ourselves, and we will attract people like us to listen.
That's true.
Really, you have to honor yourself. But in the end, working with other people is pretty valuable too. Like I wrote a song my first semester of my graduate school, and then last semester I took a course. It's called demo production. And for 12 weeks we just did the one song. I've never spent 12 weeks on one song. And so it transformed into something I never would have imagined. And then, around week 9, we were adding strings. And I loved that week. It just totally changed it again. And then we did horns, and I was like, I don't think horns would go in this. But by the time I got to the 12th week, we did some mixing and a little mastering and stuff. And it just was so addicting. I need to do that to all my songs just because it just added so much. And when I wrote it, I thought this is just going to be a guitar and voice song.
Well, that's what happens, and those creative juices flow. You try a couple things and then all of a sudden you go, well, wait a minute, what if I did this? And then the next thing you know, the sun has come up and you started
to like, I didn't go to sleep at all.
Yeah, I mean, those things happen when you're just so locked into what you're creating. I think one of the best and the worst things for me was that I discovered strings, because for the longest time, strings had to go in everything that I did because I just loved the sound of them so much.
Right.
Very overkill though, if you know how to use them right.
Not everything. Yeah.
So you guys have the YouTube channel, you do the lessons. Do you both have students? Do you have students as well, John?
I do, actually. I've been, I've been teaching at Berklee College of Music for over 30 years. I have a bunch of private students that some of them come to the house. Some of them I'm teaching over Zoom. I also have a premium content video lessons channel on truefire.com, which, if you're familiar with it, it's one of the it's essentially a video lessons website. So they have they have several courses that they're up online. I wrote 4 courses for them actually. So those are up,
channel.
And then I have my own private channel.
He adds videos every month.
Yeah. Yeah, so so a couple of times a month I'll film some lesson videos about something I'm thinking about, and just keep posting lessons on there. So people who subscribe to it, can see all the videos. They can download all the support material that goes with it, things like that. So that keeps me hopping.
Perfect. And I've got all those links in the show notes for you guys. I'm amazed at how much you guys put out. I mean, I wish I could give as much content as you guys do. I feel like I'm...
Oh my gosh, Scott, didn't you just say you've released 1,200 pieces of music?
Yeah.
Yeah,
podcasts,
1,200. I mean, I've written maybe 40 tunes in my lifetime.
Oh, come on.
Well, completed, let's say that.
You're amazing.
Well, I think the thing, like you'd said earlier about your, kind of your ideas folder, I'm really glad that storage space is so inexpensive on a computer these days, because I think my ideas folder of things that I'm like, hey, this would be cool to do something with someday, and then just never do, that thing is bulging.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really cool to just be able to create something and then share it with the world, and hopefully people will like it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you guys play live as well. You entertain a lot of people, and I love that. You're doing what you were both born to do, and that's the most important thing. And you give back. You've got the lessons. You've got practice things for people. I mean, you really give a lot, and I appreciate what you guys do, just as entertainers, but also for our future generations, because we need to do that.
Thank you very much. Well, we're very blessed to be able to say this is our life.
Yeah, it's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again on your album coming out. I've got the links to all this stuff in the show notes for you guys. If you have any problems, write me at scott@scotthaskin.com, but you shouldn't, because the links are going to work. Thank you guys both for coming on. I'm so excited because we're recording this ahead of time, so I haven't heard the album yet, but I cannot wait to listen to it. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to send you a copy. Do you want digital, or do you like CD still?
I like digital.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. It doesn't cost anybody $42 to ship a CD and then an hour to open it.
Right. How do you get this thing open?
That's right. Thank you guys. Please come back and see us again. You guys are so wonderful, and I just love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we love what you're doing too.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.